Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. His story auto-played and I almost dropped my phone. 1 second I was scrolling in silence, next second his face filled the screen. He leaned back with a girl on his lap, their heads pressed close. My chest tightened so fast it felt like missing a step on stairs. I should probably tell you who is losing her mind here. I am Emily, 32, allegedly mature and completely not in that moment. My thumb froze on the screen, like if I did not move nothing would count. The video looped again, her laugh repeating in short, sharp bursts. They were at some rooftop bar, crowded and loud even on mute. She tossed her hair over his shoulder, his hand resting on her knee. He looked straight into the camera, eyebrows raised like a dare. I knew he posted that for everyone, but it landed right on me. I tapped back, then forward, then replayed like a lunatic. Every loop scraped the same raw nerve, like poking a bruise on purpose. Her legs across him, his fingers tapping her thigh in rhythm. I could not tell if I wanted to cry or smash something. You know that moment when your body reacts before your brain catches up. My heart started racing, palms damp, mouth suddenly dry for no reason. It was a stupid 30-second clip, shot in bad lighting. Still, my whole nervous system treated it like an earthquake. His username sat at the top with that glowing ring around it. I had never muted him, never blocked, never fully cut the cord. I used to tell myself it was about closure, staying civil and grown. Watching that story, I knew it was just me torturing myself. I hovered over the 3 dots in the corner, ready to mute. My thumb trembled, which was pathetic but also very real. I imagined the silence I would get if I finally tapped. Instead, I exited the story and landed on my own profile. My last post stared back at me, weeks old and painfully harmless. Some brunch photo with friends, polite smiles and neat little caption. I scrolled down and saw the version of me that still tried. Happy enough, safe enough, definitely not the girl who wins breakups. His new girl laughed in motion, while my page felt frozen in time. I pinched my own cheeks like that would summon instant glow. Caught my reflection in the black screen between taps, eyes dull and tired. I hated how small I looked compared to the scene he broadcast. I flipped the camera and tried a quick selfie anyway. Tilted my chin, found the angle I usually trusted, forced a half smile. The result looked like someone pretending not to have cried recently. Even with a filter, the sadness showed up like a watermark. I deleted the photo and took another, mouth pressed tighter now. Voice in my head hissed that I was behind, losing, invisible. I thought about him seeing a hot picture of me and pausing. That imagined pause felt like oxygen and poison at the same time. Without thinking, I went back to his page and opened his grid. There they were, 3 new photos in less than 2 weeks. Her sitting on a bar stool, him behind her, their hands linked loosely. Comments full of little hearts and fire emojis from people we both knew. My finger zoomed in on his face, searching for some crack. He looked relaxed, confident, like divorce had been a minor detour. I wanted to believe it was all a performance, a curated highlight. Honestly, it did not matter, because it still punched me in the gut. I dropped the phone on the couch and stared at the ceiling. For a second, everything went very quiet, like right before crying. I could either spiral in that silence or do something reckless. You can probably guess which option I picked since I am telling you this. I grabbed the phone again and opened my messages with Mia. She was my best friend and also my unofficial post-divorce coach. I snapped a screenshot of his story and sent it without comment. 3 dots appeared so fast it was like she had been waiting. "Why are you still watching his stuff?" popped up on my screen. Another bubble followed before I could answer, longer this time. Block him or outshine him, those are your only options. I stared at the words and felt my pride sit up. Blocking him meant disappearing from his world completely, which terrified me. Outshining him meant stepping back into a life I had avoided. Dating again, putting myself out there, risking actual rejection, not virtual. Both choices felt risky, but only one stroked my ego. I opened the App Store and searched the same dating app. The logo hit me with this weird wave of déjà vu. Memories of awkward chats and dead matches stirred up like dust. My thumb hovered over download, heart beat loud in my ears. Here is the honest part I almost skipped. I did not download that app because I felt ready for love. I did it because my ex had a new highlight reel. I wanted one too, preferably with better angles. The download bar crawled across the screen and I almost backed out. I could have closed everything and taken a long show. Or instead, could have muted him, gone to bed, cried into my pillow. Instead, I watched that bar fill up like a fuse lighting. When the app finally opened, my old profile appeared like a ghost. Same tired joke in the bio, same soft smile in the picture. I winced at the version of me who thought that was enough. Breakups age you in strange ways, and that profile looked 12 emotionally. I hit edit and started tearing it apart piece by piece. Swapped the photo for one from last month, stronger lines, sharper energy. Deleted the cute line about wanting something serious and honest. Typed divorced, figuring things out, here for fun and surprises instead. I stared at that sentence and knew it was half lie. I was not here for surprises, I was here for revenge. Still, the words looked bold on the screen and I liked that. I saved the changes and felt a small electric jolt of control. Matches started popping up faster than I remembered from before. Little notifications stacked at the top, names and faces blurring. Every new like hit my brain like a sugary shot. None of them were him, but they all pulled me forward. On impulse, I flipped back to Instagram and opened my stories. No warm-up, no overthinking, just raw knee-jerk recklessness. I snapped a mirror shot, tucked in my shirt, angled my hip. Added a song clip that sounded confident, even if I was not. My thumb hovered over post, that tiny line between thought and action. I imagined him seeing it and pausing for even 1 second. Imagined his new girlfriend asking who took the picture, why I looked good. That petty fantasy shoved me over the edge and I hit share. Story went up and for a moment nothing happened at all. I watched the viewer count tick from 0 to 5 to 9. Friends appeared on the list, coworkers, then a name that burned. Seen by Jake slid into place and my stomach flipped hard. The rush was immediate and embarrassingly satisfying. He had watched me, which meant he had noticed, which meant something. It did not fix my heart or my life, but it numbed things. I sat down slowly, still holding the phone, already craving the next hit. I answered the first message that popped up. No thinking, no checking his profile again, just a quick reply. Drinks tomorrow, I typed, fingers moving faster than my brain. I hit send before I could remember why I even opened that app. Replies started stacking up while I watched the little bubbles pulse. Short compliments, lazy jokes, the usual half-awake attempts at charm. Some I ignored immediately, some I liked just because I needed noise. I was not looking for a person, I was chasing a feeling. One guy pushed harder than the others, which worked on me. His name was Tyler, profile full of gym shots and weekend trips. Let me take you out, he wrote, no awkward small talk first. The confidence hooked me, even though it also annoyed me a little. Sure, tomorrow night, I answered, my thumb barely pausing to think. He rattled off a time and place like he had it ready. No debate, no hesitation, just a plan dropped into my lap. It felt like stepping onto a moving walkway I had not requested. As soon as the date locked in, my brain jumped to the feed. I flipped back to Instagram, opened the camera without even blinking. Shot another mirror story, changed my pose 3 times in 30 seconds. I wanted it to look casual and effortless, which took way too long. I added a line of text, something light that hinted at plans. Tomorrow is booked, I wrote, with one tiny wink emoji at the end. The second I posted it, my heart kicked hard and uneven. I watched the viewer count rise like it was hooked to my pulse. Friends came first, then coworkers, then random people I barely knew anymore. His name did not appear right away, which bothered me instantly. I refreshed the list again, even though nothing had changed yet. That gap where he usually sat felt louder than any notification. Mia called before I could spiral deeper into that stupid list. I put her on speaker and tossed the phone beside me. You actually did it, her voice came through, half impressed and wary. You booked a date in under 24 hours, savage. I let out a tight laugh, the kind that tries to sound relaxed. Trying something new, I said, picking at a loose thread on my sleeve. Tomorrow night, bar near my place, low stakes, easy out. Even as I talked, I watched for his icon to show up. Low stakes my ass, Mia cut in, sharp and direct as always. You are absolutely planning an outfit around whether he views that story. She was not wrong, which irritated me because I wanted to feel subtle. I stayed quiet a second too long, and she heard everything in that silence. Listen, she went on, voice softer but still clear. Go if you want, flirt, enjoy it, whatever keeps you moving. But do not turn some stranger into a prop for your little war. Her choice of words stung because it was too precise to dodge. I am just going on a date, I answered, tone flat and defensive. People do that all the time, it is not a crime. I hated how weak it sounded, like I was repeating a script. We both knew I was not that casual, not even close. Fine, she said, and I could hear movement on her end. Then promise me one thing, and I will shut up about it. No posting his face tomorrow, not one shot, not even a shadow. Her terms slammed straight into my chest, because she understood my favorite trick. I exhaled slowly, eyes focused on the ceiling like it had answers. No promises, I tried first, already knowing she would hate that. So you admit you are doing this for attention, she snapped back. The word attention made my stomach clench, because it was exactly right. Okay, fine, I said, voice lower than before, walls cracking a little. No direct pictures, nothing obvious, just maybe some background stuff. I pushed the compromise out fast, hoping she would settle for it. There was a long pause before she laughed once, short and disbelieving. You are impossible, she muttered, but there was warmth under it. I am still on your side, even when you act chaotic as hell. Just remember you actually have a heart, not only an audience. The call ended, and her last line lingered louder than the ringtone. I checked my story again because of course I did. There it was finally, his little circle and name in the list. The rush hit instantly, like I had been holding my breath too long. I almost screenshotted it for Mia, then stopped, ashamed of the instinct. The next day dragged, but only because I kept checking my phone. Tyler texted a few times, short messages, nothing deep, nothing heavy. Still on for tonight, popped up around lunch and I replied fast. Definitely, I wrote, even though I was mostly excited for the proof. After work, I rushed home and dumped my bag near the door. I threw half my closet on the bed, searching for the right vibe. Not too formal, not too casual, basically just look what you lost. I was not dressing for Tyler, and I hated how true that felt. I snapped different test photos in the mirror, changing angles and poses. Deleted most of them, kept two, zoomed in, zoomed out again. In one I looked strong and calm, in another I looked reckless. I chose the reckless one and added a caption about Friday energy. The story went up 3 hours before the date even started. I wanted the timing to land exactly where I imagined he might scroll. Every view felt like a vote, every tap a little hit. I checked between mascara coats, between outfit changes, between actual breaths. By the time I left the apartment, I was wired. Not about meeting a new person, but about who might notice. I hated that awareness, yet I walked out the door anyway. Some part of me had already decided this was the new game. At the bar, Tyler greeted me with a wide, confident grin. He looked exactly like his profile, which felt oddly rare and reassuring. He pulled me into a quick half hug, maybe a little too familiar. Wow, you look incredible, he said, eyes running over me with zero shame. I smiled automatically and tucked my hair behind my ear. Inside, a second track already started, planning the recap for later. Angles, captions, maybe a shot of our drinks clinking in frame. It was like my brain had split into narrator and actor. We grabbed a small table near the middle of the room. Music played loud enough that we had to lean forward to talk. He launched into stories about his job, his workouts, his friend group. His words washed over me while I checked my phone under the table. I posted a quick shot of the table, cropped tight and careful. Only our hands showed, my bracelet and his watch beside the glass. Out, I typed across the image, simple, pointed, nothing else needed. I watched the list again, waiting for that one confirmation to appear. Are you checking your email or something? Tyler asked with a laugh. I looked up too fast, gave myself away with that guilty jerk. Work drama, I lied, waving the phone once before setting it down. He nodded, but his gaze lingered on the screen a beat too long. He leaned in again, now talking about his last vacation with enthusiasm. Names and places blurred together because my focus had shifted completely. My phone buzzed once on the table, screen lighting up my hand. The glow pulled my eyes like a magnet, even as I tried to resist. I stole a glance and saw the notification I had been hoping for. Story views had spiked, and his name floated near the top again. Heat rushed to my face, not from the drink but from that. I forced myself to look back up before Tyler noticed the change. "Everything good?" he asked, drumming his fingers on the table lightly. "Yeah, all good," I answered, twisting my ringless finger without thinking. "Just work stuff, nothing fun, trying not to bring it here." The lie slid out smooth. Through this time, which scared me a little. He reached across and brushed his knuckles along my wrist. "You seem a little distracted," he observed, voice dropping half an octave. "Want to get out of here, go somewhere quieter, maybe my place." The direct offer hit me like cold water because I was not ready. That was the moment I realized how far I had drifted. I was present enough to signal availability, not present enough for follow-through. "I have an early morning," I answered quickly, pulling my hand back. "Another drink here is fine, then I should head home." His mouth tightened, but he covered it with a shrug and a joke. "Your loss," he teased, lifting his glass for a small toast. He shifted the conversation to lighter topics, easy entertainment, surface level. I played along, laughing at the right moments, heart somewhere else entirely. On the ride home, I scrolled through my own story again. Comments had trickled in, fire emojis, flirty replies, little questions. The one person I cared about had not responded at all. He had watched in silence, which somehow felt worse than any message. In my kitchen, I propped the phone up and recorded another clip. Just me dropping my keys on the counter and kicking off my shoes. I added a caption about home by choice, not by default. It was a ridiculous line, but it made me feel untouchable for a second. The views climbed again, my brain buzzing with every tiny change. I knew this pattern was unhealthy, even as I leaned into it. Mia's warning replayed in my mind, about hearts and audiences and war. I ignored it and opened the dating app again, hungry for fresh faces. New matches filled the screen, each one a possible future post. I swiped through quickly, barely reading, just scanning for that spark. Not the romantic kind, the strategic kind, the one that photographed well. Somewhere in that blur, I matched with a man whose profile felt different. He did not have gym shots or party clips or staged cool moments. His pictures were simple, relaxed, almost boring, which made them stand out. His first message did not mention my body, which shocked me a little. "Favorite meal when you are stressed?" he asked, straight to something real. I stared at that line, thumb hovering above the keyboard. For once I did not think about stories, only about the question. It was such a small thing, but it hit a quiet place. I answered honestly, and I did not screenshot anything for anyone. I walked into the restaurant, already holding my phone like a shield. The dating app was still open on the last chat with him. "See you at 7" sat there, simple and calm, unlike my nerves. For a second I considered turning around and pretending I got the time wrong. He stood up when he spotted me, lifting one hand in a small wave. Same face as in his photos, but more alive, more tired, more real. That hit me harder than I expected, like I had braced for fake. "Hey," he greeted me, and I realized I was still clutching my screen. "Sorry, work thing," I blurted, sliding the phone into my bag too fast. It was not work, obviously, it was my last glance at Instagram. Old habits do not care that you are about to meet someone new. They just shove themselves in front, loud and needy, demanding one more check. We sat across from each other and I felt weirdly exposed. Without my device in my hand, I had nothing to fuss with. No filter, no angle, no little red icon to chase. Just another human looking at me, waiting to see who showed up. "You look different than in your pictures," he mentioned, watching my face closely. My stomach lurched, ready for an insult, ready for disappointment. "Oh, worse different or better different?" I asked, trying to joke. His mouth twitched like he caught my panic and felt a little bad. "More relaxed," he answered, leaning back, fingers tapping lightly on the table. Less staged, if that makes sense, in a good way. I forced a laugh because the word staged landed right where it hurt. If he knew how many drafts never saw daylight, he would understand. We looked at the menus, but my thoughts stayed on that one word. I heard Jake in my head too, pointing out my online performance. Apparently, the universe had decided I needed a chorus all of a sudden. I stared at the list without actually reading, just trying not to react. Panic ordering is allowed, he joked, watching me stall too long. What do you grab when your day falls apart? That was the same question from his very first message, recycled here. For some reason, that tiny callback loosened my shoulders more than wine. Pasta, I answered, no hesitation this time, owning it. Big bowl, no restraint, full carb emergency response. He smiled, like he was pleased I had not edited myself for once. That tracks with someone who answered in under 10 seconds, he teased. We placed our orders and the small talk started rolling. He asked about my job, my friends, things that did end. Odd involve screens. I kept my answers short at first, waiting for the usual flirty nonsense. It never came, which sounded great in theory and felt strange in practice. At some point my bag buzzed near my chair and I flinched. He noticed the reaction before I could pretend it was nothing. Need to grab that? He asked, eyebrows raised, fingers pausing mid-tap. I shook my head too fast, then caved before the next vibration. Give me 1 second, I muttered, pulling the phone out anyway. It was nothing urgent, just another notification from the app. Still, my thumb slid to Instagram on autopilot, muscle memory winning. One tiny peek, that was how I framed it in my head. I opened the camera instead of the feed, which was worse. The urge to capture the moment hit like a reflex test. Cute dinner, new guy, new angle, perfect material to drop online. My hand actually rose halfway before I realized what I was doing. He watched the whole thing, his gaze following the half-lifted phone. You about to film me? He asked, tone light but eyes focused. I froze and laughed too loudly, like that would erase the gesture. Just checking something, I answered, lowering it fast, cheeks burning. Do you put all your dates on social? He pressed, tilting his head. There was no accusation in his voice, but the question still stung. Not all, I replied, stabbing at the napkin with one fingernail. That would be crazy, right? I added, hearing how defensive I sounded. He rested his forearms on the table and looked straight at me. It is okay if you do, he said, slower this time, choosing. I just prefer to know when I am part of a broadcast. My chest tightened because he had walked right into the thing I avoided naming. Sincerity time, I guess. I posted with one guy, I admitted, focusing on a faint scratch on the table. More like hints that someone was there, not his actual face. That still counts, he replied, lips quirking, and I had no counter. I tried to switch the topic, asked about his work, his students. He answered, told a quick story about a kid who fell asleep in class. We both laughed, tension dipping for a moment like a wave pulling back. Inside, though, the earlier question still buzzed, waiting for its turn again. When our food arrived, I used the plate as another excuse. Okay, I have to, I joked, lifting the phone again. One photo, then I am done, promise. He exhaled through his nose, not angry, just resigned, which almost felt worse. I framed the shot carefully, my hand, the plate, a slice of his sleeve. No face, no identifying features, just enough to hint at company. Added a short line, something like taking care of myself tonight. I posted before I could talk myself out of it, heart thudding. The app refreshed and I stared at those tiny circles again. Names started appearing, familiar watchers, the same regulars who never miss anything. My pulse kicked harder while I pretended to focus on my meal. I did not see his name yet, and the absence scraped across my nerves. Is it relaxing? He asked suddenly, cutting through my silent panic. I looked up, fork halfway to my mouth, thrown by the question. Posting, he clarified, gesturing toward the phone resting beside my plate. Does it actually help, or just keep things loud in your head? I wanted to lie, swear it made me feel empowered and free. Instead, I stalled with a sip of water, buying a few seconds. At first it helps, I admitted, surprising myself with the honesty. Then I keep checking who saw it, and everything gets louder again. And there is someone specific you hope sees it, he added softly. Not a question, more like a statement he had already confirmed. The air between us shifted, heavier, sharper, harder to dodge. My fingers tightened around the fork until my knuckles ached. You do not have to answer, he added quickly, palms facing up. I am not trying to interrogate you on the first date. But I know that look way too well to ignore it. My throat clenched because I knew exactly which look he meant. There was no point pretending he was wrong. Yeah, I said, the word scraping against my teeth as it came out. There is someone I hope notices I am not at home crying. The admission left me feeling exposed and a little lighter at the same time. He studied me for a moment, head slightly tilted, expression unreadable. Your former partner, he asked, giving me the option to deny. I stayed quiet long enough that the silence answered for me. Shame flushed through me, hot and stubborn, sitting under my skin. Been there, he murmured, leaning back like he had just solved a puzzle. After my long breakup, I turned my feed into a scoreboard. Every outing, every new person, every fake smile was for one viewer. That line landed hard because it was my exact pattern with new clothes. I gripped the edge of my chair, fighting the urge to defend myself. It is not like that, I tried in. Even though we both knew. I am actually trying to meet people, not just wave in his direction. My voice tipped higher at the end, exposing the lie better than any confession. You might be doing both, he replied, not backing away this time. And I get why, it feels satisfying in a twisted way. But here is the problem with that little game. He paused, letting the quiet stretch until I had to ask. What problem? I pushed, jaw tight, bracing for impact. You cannot heal while you are busy performing for the wound, he answered. The words hit harder than I wanted to admit, because they were ugly and true. My first instinct was to laugh it off and make some biting joke. Instead, I stabbed a piece of pasta and focused on chewing. My hand shook slightly, which annoyed me even more. You think you are above it? I asked, trying to flip the mirror back. You never post something pointed, hoping someone specific sees it. He smiled then, but it was small and tired, not smug. Oh, I absolutely did, he replied, fingers tracing the rim of his glass. I learned the hard way that you cannot stay there forever. He lifted his eyes to mine, and they held something like warning. At some point you realize you are still living inside their attention, he continued. Even when they are not with you, they still run the show. Every outfit, every picture, every place you pick goes through that filter. He shook his head once short, like he was disgusted with his old self. I looked down at my plate and saw exactly what he meant. The neckline I chose, the way I angled my wrist in the photo. The timing of my post, chosen to intersect with his usual scrolling habits. Every detail traced back to someone who was not even in the room. You do not know me well enough to be this accurate, I muttered. It came out more vulnerable than I intended, no real heat behind it. He rested his elbows on the table again, leaning forward just a little. That is because it is my mess too, he answered, and that part disarmed me. We finished eating, conversation drifting to lighter ground for a while. We joked about terrible first messages, worst profiles, ridiculous pickup attempts. I laughed more freely than I expected after that heavy middle stretch. Still, the earlier words sat there, like a stone in my pocket. When the check arrived, he reached for it and I let him. Old instinct told me to snap a quick shot of our empty plates. I almost grabbed the phone, then stopped with my fingers inches away. That tiny pause felt like someone pulling a handbrake in my chest. Outside, we lingered near the entrance, the night humming around us. He shoved his hands into his pockets and glanced at my bag. Can I ask one last thing? He said, tone careful this time. If your ex never watched another post, would you still want to see me again? That question pinned me harder than any accusation. My brain scrambled for a smooth answer, something charming and quick. For once nothing came, just a long internal pause and a low hum of honesty. I opened my mouth, then closed it, then finally forced something out. I like talking to you, I managed, which was true and incomplete. I am not sure which part of me asked you out though. I winced as soon as I heard myself because that sounded awful. His eyebrows lifted, but he did not look offended, just thoughtful. Fair enough, he replied, stepping back one small pace, giving me space. Figure out who is actually calling the shots, you or the ghost. I am around if you want to try this again for yourself. He gave a short wave and walked toward the parking lot, leaving me buzzing. On the ride home, I held my phone but did not unlock it. Notifications stacked up on the lock screen, tempting little lights and numbers. One would definitely be from the post at dinner, I knew that. Another part of me knew exactly whose name I was chasing in that list. In my living room, I finally gave in and checked. My latest upload had plenty of views, plenty of reactions, plenty of noise. His username sat near the top, right where my addiction expected it. The rush hit on cue, then faded faster than usual, leaving something sour. I started to tap his profile, then pulled my hand back sharply. Marcus's question replayed in my head, over and over like a loop. If he never watched another thing, what would I actually do with myself? I locked the screen and set the phone face down, heart pounding anyway. I wish I could say that was the night I changed everything. It was not, obviously, because people do not flip that fast in real life. But that conversation lodged itself in a place I could not ignore anymore. And from that point on, every time I opened the app, I heard his voice. The text from him popped up while I was answering an email. His name stared at me from the top of the screen like a warning. Enjoying your little teacher phase, the message read as if he was Joe. King. My fingers froze above the keyboard, and the email draft vanished from my head. I opened the thread even though every cell screamed not to. There were more lines stacked under the first one, waiting. Whole feed feels like an audition lately. Relax, you do not have to prove you are okay every night. My chest tightened and my jaw locked at the same time. I glanced around the office as if someone could see the words. Nobody looked over, nobody cared, which almost made it worse. It was just me and his voice in my hand again. Why are you watching then? I typed, thumbs moving too fast. The anger helped me breathe, which is its own kind of problem. If I am that desperate, you can always unfollow. I hit send before I could soften anything on purpose. 3 dots appeared, stopped, then came back like he was pacing. You are smarter than this, his next message read, short and sharp. Those guys are background noise and you know it. Heat spread through my neck because he was too close to the truth. I grabbed my phone and walked straight to the bathroom. Lock clicked behind me and I leaned against the door, breathing hard. My reflection looked pissed and tired, not glamorous, not victorious. Exactly the opposite of what I had been selling online all week. Another buzz. I am not judging you for going out, the new message claimed. I am just not buying this whole carefree persona. That word stuck, like he was reviewing a performance, not my life. You lost the right to analyze me, I wrote, tugging my sleeve. You paraded someone else while we were still untangling everything. The old hurt rose fast, mixed with fresh humiliation. I am allowed to have fun without a lecture from you. Is that what you call it? Came back almost instantly. Fun. Because from here it looks like you are shouting, look at me in every post. I flinched like he had thrown something physical, even though it was text. Here is the part I hate admitting. A small piece of me knew he was not completely wrong. At that moment, though, I was more interested in winning than growing. So I went for the cheap shot instead of the honest one. Jealous much? I fired back, heart racing now. You must be, otherwise why would you watch all of it? I added a laughing emoji I did not feel just to twist it. If he bit, I could tell myself this was all about his ego. The reply took longer this time, which made my stomach churn. Please, he wrote finally. I moved on, I am just sad watching you pretend. That last part knocked the air out of me more than the claim about moving on. Right then another notification rolled down from the top of the screen. Marcus's name this time, a text asking about my weekend plans. 2 threads, 2 versions of me fighting for the same space. For a second I almost answered the wrong person with the wrong line. I slid over to Marcus's chat and stared at his question. Saturday brunch, he had written, keeping it light, no pressure. My thumbs hovered while the other conversation throbbed in the background. I typed yes, then deleted it, then typed it again, which felt ridiculous. In the end, I sent a neutral answer that sounded polite. Yeah, I would like that. No hearts, no jokes, nothing that showed how shaken I was. As soon as it delivered, I switched back to the argument I had paused. Sad, I echoed the word burning on my screen. Do not act like some concerned mentor, it is insulting. You do not get to stand there and feel sorry for me. My thumb shook when I pressed send, which made me angrier. He responded with a single line that cut deeper than the others. You do not move on this fast, M, that is how I know. Seeing my nickname there pulled old muscle memory awake. For a second I forgot we were not on the same side anymore. Now looking back, I can see he was poking the softest spot. At the time all I heard was a challenge I had to crush. He was basically calling me out as still attached, and he was right. But I treated it like a competition, not a diagnosis. You do not know what I can do without you, I wrote. You are not the only person I ever loved or ever will. It felt dramatic the second it left my thumbs, like a scripted line. The silence after it sent felt heavier than any reply. Finally, the bubbles returned, which did not help my pulse. Enjoy the teacher, his next message read, almost thrown away. He seemed safe, boring but safe. I let out a harsh laugh in that tiled bathroom, which echoed back at me. My first instinct was to defend Marcus, which startled me. You do not know him, I answered, shoulders tight. And you do not know this version of me anymore either. I locked the screen right after sending, like slamming a door. Back at my desk, my computer screen had gone dark. Work looked fake and far away, even though it was right there. My phone sat face down beside the keyboard, humming quietly. I did not flip it over, but my mind stayed glued to it anyway. An hour later, Marcus texted again, a second message stacked under the first. Everything okay? Your answer sounded kind of formal. I stared at those words longer than I should have, guilt creeping in. I typed a quick correction, trying to fix the tone. Busy day, sorry, brunch sounds great, I promise I am not dodging you. He replied with a thumbs up and a smile, nothing heavy. I still felt like I had shortchanged him without him knowing. That night I curled up on my couch with my phone again. You can probably guess which chat I opened first, sadly. There was a new message from my ex waiting there, of course. Just do not hurt some random guy because you cannot let go. Something in me snapped at that line, sharp and ugly. Oh, now you care about some random guy, I typed. Where was that concern when I was falling apart over you? There it was, the sentence I had avoided for months, finally written out. He took his time before answering, which only wound me tighter. That is not fair and you know it, he eventually replied. I messed up, I admitted it, I am trying to do better. Can you say the same about whatever this is? I stared at the last question for what felt like forever. Could I actually say I was doing better, not just louder? Probably not, but I was not about to hand him that admission. So I did what I usually do when cornered, I went petty. At least I am not parading someone for likes, I wrote. Wait, actually, that is exactly what you did with her. I watched the typing bubbles appear and disappear 3 times in a row. He was either furious or editing himself, and I could not tell which scared me more. Keep convincing yourself this is about me, finally appeared on the screen. As long as I am the main character, you will never have to look closer. That one landed right in the part Marcus had touched at dinner. 2 different men hitting the same sore truth should have told me something. Right then my phone lit again with a separate alert. Marcus had sent a meme, some dumb joke about grading and chaos. Needed this laugh tonight, his caption read under the image. The whiplash between the 2 threads made my head spin. Without thinking, I snapped a quick couch selfie and sent it to Marcus. Hair pulled up, sweatshirt on, trying to look open and light. Same, I wrote, today has been a lot. He responded with a picture of his own, tired eyes, soft grin. Want company later? He asked, following the picture with that. My heart did a weird double move, hope and panic hitting together. If he came over, my phone would be within reach the whole time. I knew myself well enough to know that was a risk. Yeah, come by, I replied anyway because of course I did. Part of me truly wanted to see him, I am not lying. Another part wanted a new scene for my ex to imagine. The mix made me feel grimy before he even got in the car. While I waited, I opened Instagram and hovered over the story icon. I could share a cozy shot, coy caption, hint that someone was on the way. The urge crawled through me like an itch under the skin. I lifted the phone, framed my legs on the couch, then dropped it flat again. When Marcus knocked, I shoved the device under a cushion. He walked in, eyes scanning my face, picking up on the residue. "You look like your brain ran a marathon," he noted, dropping his keys. "Want to tell me what happened or just zone out in front of something dumb?" I sank back down and patted the spot next to me. "A bit of both," I answered, trying to sound casual and failing. "My ex discovered my social life and decided to hold a review." Saying it out loud made it sound even more twisted than it felt on screen. Marcus stretched out beside me, one arm along the back of the couch. "That explains the tone earlier," he murmured, eyes on my face. "Did he reach out just once, or has this been an ongoing thing?" The question was gentle, but it still backed me into a corner. "Today was the first time he went this deep," I claimed, picking at a loose thread. Which was technically correct if you ignored all the silent watching before. "He thinks I am using people to prove something, like I am on stage." My voice cracked a little on the last word, which annoyed me. Marcus watched me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Do you think he is wrong?" he asked, not letting me dodge. I hated that question almost as much as I needed it. My stomach twisted, because I knew the honest answer and it was not flattering. "I think he enjoyed being the center of my universe," I snapped instead. "And now he cannot stand that someone else shows up in the picture." It sounded convincing for half a second, enough to soothe my pride. Then I caught the way Marcus's eyebrows pulled together, and the illusion cracked. "You just turned him into the star of this conversation again," he pointed out. "No matter how you frame it, he is. Still running your reactions." He gestured toward the cushion where my phone lay hidden. "You even buried the device like it was a loaded weapon." I barked out a laugh that sounded more hysterical than amused. "Have you considered a career in emotional diagnostics?" I asked, half joking. "It is really fun how you keep nailing the parts I avoid." He smiled, but his eyes stayed serious, and that mix unnerved me. "I like you," he said simply, fingers brushing my knee once. "I also do not want to become a prop in a battle I did not sign up for." My throat tightened again because there it was, the thing I most feared. Someone finally saying out loud that I might be using them. I shifted away an inch, just enough for him to notice. "You think I am doing that now?" I asked, trying to sound insulted. "I invited you because I wanted you here, not as an accessory." Even as I spoke, I felt the half-truth lodged in the middle. He let out a slow breath, eyes flicking toward the buried phone. "I think you are split down the middle," he replied. "Half of you is here, the other half is waiting to see who reacts online." That sentence sat between us like a third person, loud and undeniable. I did not cry. I did feel something heavy slide down in my chest, though. "Then maybe I should not be dating at all," I muttered, staring at my hands. The thought scared me almost as much as it relieved me. Marcus shifted closer instead of pulling away, which surprised me. "I am not telling you to stop," he said, voice low. "I am asking you to notice when you are treating your life like content. And when you catch yourself, maybe choose differently once in a while." That line followed me for months after, but in that moment I bristled. "I get it," I answered, tone clipped. "You do not want to feel like a character in some petty drama." He gave a small nod, and the silence that followed felt thick. We put something on the TV and pretended to focus on it. Our shoulders touched, his hand found mine, the basics of comfort. My mind still kept flashing back to the notification screen, wondering if another comment had landed, if another view had ticked up. When he went to refill his drink, I yanked the phone out fast. Screen lit up with a fresh comment from my ex under an old photo. "Always knew you would bounce back," he had written publicly, a little smirk hidden in the words. My stomach dropped because now the private tension had spilled into the open. I almost responded right there with something cutting and clever. Then I heard Marcus's footsteps returning and locked the screen instead. I shoved the phone back under the cushion like it burned. Sat up straighter and tried to act normal, heart pounding against my ribs. That is how that night ended. Me on a couch with someone kind, pretending to be fully present. My device humming like a live wire beneath us, dragging my focus away. Two men and my messages, and me not really belonging to myself yet. The group chat exploded while I was brushing my teeth. Messages stacked so fast the banner stayed on my screen. Saturday, everyone at my place, no excuses, our friend wrote. Underneath, a list of confirmed names, his right there in the middle. I stared at the list, foam still in my mouth. Marcus was already marked as going, little check beside his name. A second later, a new line appeared. Jake added a fire emoji under the invite and my pulse jumped. I rinsed, grabbed my phone with wet hands, opened Marcus's chat. You knew he would be there, I typed no greeting. The dots popped up almost immediately, which annoyed and comforted me. Yeah, whole crew is invited, you okay with that? Appeared. I paced across the room, phone held too tight. Define okay, I answered, then erased it before sending. Instead, I tried something less dramatic that still carried bite. Depends if I am showing up alone or not. Not alone, his reply came short and steady. You and me walk in together if you still want that. My shoulders dropped a little, tension shifting into something else. Yeah, I wrote, I want that, just bracing. The next day dragged toward Saturday like wet concrete. Every spare second my brain replayed possible party outcomes. Me ignoring Jake completely. Me arguing with him in front of everyone. By late afternoon I had 3 outfits laid out on the bed. None of them felt neutral, which was the actual problem. Every choice carried a statement I could already hear narrated online. Confident, trying hard, desperate, over it, I hated all of it. Mia called before I picked anything, perfect timing as usual. I put her on speaker, phone on the dresser, hands on my hips. You are going tonight, she opened, not even a question. I am making sure you do not bail and fake a migraine. I am not backing out, I answered, even though part of me wanted to. I am just trying not to dress like a walking reaction. Silence from her side for a beat. And then a low whistle. Look at you hearing your own patterns, she said, a little impressed. Do not get too proud of me yet, I muttered. My first instinct was still to post a pregame thirst trap. Did you? She asked, voice sharper now. I glanced at the blank story circle and felt both proud and twitchy. Not yet, I said, which was the honest line. But the night is young and my self-control is fragile. She laughed once, then went serious fast. Try this, anything you share tonight has to be for you, not him. That sounds fake deep, I joked, even though it hit. I am serious, she replied, her tone making my stomach flip. If you cannot tell who it is for, maybe do not tap post. I swallowed hard because that was way stricter than I wanted. After we hung up, I finally picked an outfit and got dressed. I caught myself turning toward the mirror with my phone in hand. For a full 10 seconds I posed without hitting the shutter. Then I dropped my arms and set the device face down. Marcus texted that he was outside and my nerves spiked again. I grabbed my bag, hesitated at the counter where my phone lay. Leaving it there felt impossible, so I slipped it inside anyway. I told myself I just needed it for safety, which was half true. He leaned against his car when I stepped outside, watching my face. You ready? He asked, pushing his hands into his pockets. No, I answered, walking toward him anyway. He smiled at that, small but real, and opened the door for me. On the drive over, he kept the conversation light and goofy. Work stories, random traffic commentary, small jokes to cut the tension. I appreciated the effort, even if my brain kept drifting ahead. Every time my bag buzzed near my feet, my attention snapped down. You can check it, he said once, eyes still on the road. I am not going to confiscate your lifeline. I let out a quick breath that passed for a laugh. If I start, I will not stop, I answered and left it alone. We pulled up outside the house and I saw familiar cars lined up. Music leaked from somewhere inside, the muffled kind of loud. My stomach tightened, but my feet still moved forward. Marcus brushed his knuckles against mine once, a quick, quiet anchor. The door opened before we could knock and someone dragged us in. Warm bodies, loud voices, a blur of greetings all at once. I smiled on autopilot, hugged, answered the same "how are you" question. My eyes still kept scanning, searching for one face I pretended not to seek. I spotted him near the kitchen, head bent toward a woman's ear. She was perched on a stool, one hand resting on his shoulder. They laughed at something and my throat clenched. He looked relaxed, completely at home, like this whole setup suited him. Marcus followed my gaze and his jaw tightened only slightly. "You can switch sides if you want," he murmured. Opposite corner of the room, full avoidance strategy. The offer was kind and also proof he saw right through me. "I am not hiding from him," I answered too fast. "That is debatable," he replied, one eyebrow lifting as he watched me. Then he squeezed my hand and let it go. "I am grabbing drinks, want one or do you need a second?" "Water first," I said, needing something simple to hold. While he headed toward the kitchen, I forced myself to move. I talked to two friends, nodded through their jokes, made half-decent replies. All the while my focus tracked the distance between Marcus and my ex. At some point my bag buzzed again and I gave in. I slipped into the hallway, away from the main knot of people. When I checked, it was a notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged me in a new photo from the party. My fingers went cold before I even opened it. The picture showed a group in the living room, mid-laugh. In the background, slightly blurred, there I was near the doorway. Across the room, also visible, Jake and his girlfriend standing close. My heart hammered as I watched comments appear under the post. "Nostalgia vibes," one friend had written with a row of hearts. "Same crew, new couples," another added, which punched a fresh bruise. I checked the likes and saw his name already there. For a second, I considered resharing it to my story with a caption. Something sharp, something that screamed I was unbothered by the whole scene. I even typed "look at us, all grown up" under it. Then I deleted the text and closed the window before I could betray myself. Running from the crowd, a familiar voice cut through the hallway. I looked up and there he was, blocking the way back. Jake leaned against the wall, casual as if this was any other weekend. My muscles locked even while my spine tried to straighten. "I came to breathe," I answered, crossing my arms before I could stop. "Hard to do that near you," almost slipped out, but I swallowed it. He glanced at the phone in my hand and smirked once. "Let me guess, monitoring your stats already." The words hit a nerve I did not want exposed here. "At least I am not documenting every rooftop date," I shot back. His smile faded a notch, annoyance flickering through. "Relax, I am just making conversation, you look tense." "You texted me that I am pretending to be fine," I reminded him. "And now you want small talk by the bathroom, pick a lane." He shifted his weight, eyes narrowing slightly. "I also remember warning you not to drag random men into this." Heat surged up my neck, part shame, part anger, heavy mix. "Marcus is not a pawn," I snapped, sharper than I planned. "You do not get to label people in my life anymore." He lifted both hands halfway, like he heard something dangerous. "I met him 5 minutes ago," he replied, voice lower. "He seems decent, which is why I said that. He is here for you, not to star in your feed." The fact that he had seen through my pattern made me furious. "You have no idea why he is here," I argued, leaning forward. "You do not know our conversations or what we want from each other." It sounded weak to my own ears, like I was dodging the real point. He watched me for a long second that felt longer than it was. "Then answer one thing honestly," he said, eyes fixed on mine. "If I stopped looking at your posts tomorrow, would you still date him?" My breath caught because Marcus had asked a version of that too. Hearing it from both sides made something rattle loose inside me. "I am not doing this with you here," I muttered, looking away. "This is not therapy and you are not licensed." He let out a short, humorless laugh and shook his head. There it is, the famous deflection still going strong. Footsteps echoed from the living room and Marcus appeared in the doorway. He took in the scene fast, eyes moving between our faces. "Everything good back here?" he asked, no fake cheer in his voice. I straightened up as if that would erase whatever he had just walked into. "Just reminiscing," Jake answered before I could shape something. Old habits, new audience, same phone in her hand. The dig landed between us like a dropped glass. Marcus's gaze dropped to my fingers still wrapped around the device. I shoved the phone into my pocket so fast it hurt. "Actually, I was about to go rejoin everyone," I said. My tone came out bright and brittle, not convincing at all. Marcus did not move aside, though. He stayed where he was. He glanced at Jake, then back at me, jaw set. I am going to grab my jacket, he said quietly. Meet me on the porch when you are ready to leave, if you want. Then he turned and walked away before I could answer. My stomach lurched at the word leave, heavy and final. I spun back toward Jake, anger rising even higher. Happy now? I demanded, hands shaking. You get to feel wise while you wreck another thing I am trying to build. His expression shifted, irritation giving way to something like regret. I did not tell him to go, he replied, shoulders dropping. You have been doing that slow demolition all by yourself. It stung more coming out so calm than if he had yelled. I took one step closer and lowered my voice. You slept with someone else and still talk like you are my judge. Every comment, every story, every rooftop stunt was about control. I am finally out here living and you cannot stand losing that grip. For a moment he looked like I had slapped him. I know what I did, he said, words clipped. I wake up with it, I go to bed with it, you are not educating me. His hands tightened at his sides and then loosened again. Then why are you even in my messages? I pushed. Why watch every detail if you are so adjusted and healed? If you are done, be done, stop lurking like a critic. My voice rose and I saw a couple glance over from the doorway. He noticed them too and lowered his tone. Because I still care whether you hurt yourself more than I already did, he said. That is the gross truth, whether you believe it or not. I froze at that because it sounded too honest to dismiss. I hated that one part of me softened for a second. The rest of me stayed rigid, remembering nights alone and unanswered calls. You are late to the concern party, I managed, forcing Steele back in. Marcus has been picking up pieces you left scattered, not you. We stood there in tight silence until someone called his name. He gave me one last look, some mix I could not decode. Think about what you post after tonight, he said, turning away. Who it is for and who pays the price later. He disappeared into the crowd, and I was left with my echoing pulse. I could have gone back in, pasted on a smile, and stayed. Instead, I walked straight through the hallway and out the front door. The air outside felt cooler than inside, but my face still burned. Marcus waited on the porch railing, staring at the yard. He did not look surprised to see me, which hurt. So he started, that one word loaded. How long have you been lit? Ingham script your behavior from a distance. I sank onto the step a few feet away, leaving space. It is not that simple, I said, rubbing my forehead. He gave a short sound that might have been a laugh. I think it is exactly that simple, he answered. I closed my eyes for a second, searching for something real. When we first matched, I swear I was curious about you, I said. Then he started watching everything and it twisted fast. The more he looked, the more I wanted to perform winning. Marcus watched my face while I spoke, not letting me hide. That is at least honest, he replied after a beat. So where does that leave me in your mind? His voice stayed even, which somehow made the question heavier. You are not a prop, I blurted out, maybe too loud. You are the first person who made me feel like myself again. Even as I said it, I knew there was another line. And also the first one to hold up a mirror I hate. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. I can handle your mess, he said, staring at the ground. I cannot handle being used to poke at someone who already broke you. My chest tightened because that was the thing I feared he would say. I do not know how to separate the two yet, I admitted. It felt awful and freeing at the same time. Every time I think I am just living, he shows up on some screen. And suddenly I am 12 steps back, designing everything around his eyes. Marcus nodded slowly, like he had expected that answer. You are not ready to fully date anyone, he said, no drama. That sucks for me, but it is not about my worth. It is about you needing to prove nothing to anyone for a while. Tears pricked my eyes and I blinked hard to clear them. You are breaking up with me outside a house party, I tried to joke. He shot me a look that was more sad than amused. I am stepping back before I turn into background noise, he corrected. The door opened behind us and music spilled out again. Someone laughed loud, cutting through the tension for a second. I stared at my bag, knowing my phone sat inside, waiting. One swipe, and I could turn this into a whole tragic saga online. Please do not post about this, Marcus said quietly, following my gaze. Not a vague caption, not a quote, not a blurry shot. He turned his head, finally looking directly at me. Let this belong to you for once, not to whoever is watching. That request hit harder than any lecture. It made me realize how often I reached for an audience before comfort. Okay, I whispered, which scared me more than yelling would have. I will not share it, I will keep this one offline. We sat there in silence for another minute, just breathing. Then he stood and slid his keys from his pocket. I will drive you home, he offered, voice gentle again. After that, you figure out what you want your life to be. On the ride back, I finally pulled out my phone. Notifications cluttered the screen from the party inside. New tags, new comments, new likes, a familiar rhythm. One direct message from Jake sat at the top, unopened. My thumb hovered over it while streetlights passed outside. I thought about every choice that had led to that moment. Every story crafted for him, every date framed for the feed. Then I backed out of the thread without opening it and cleared the alert. I did not block him, I am not going to lie. I muted the chat and shoved the phone deep into my bag. That was all I could handle that night, and even that felt huge. Progress for me looked small and clumsy, but it had finally started. My thumb paused on post while his muted chat sat at the top. One tap and the whole party mess could go live. Caption already typed, picture already framed, pain dressed up as funny. I stared at the screen so long my eyes started to sting. The photo was just my legs on the couch and a glass. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just vague and moody. Underneath I had written, apparently I am the circus, not the audience. It sounded clever for 10 seconds, then suddenly childish. I deleted the caption first, that was the easy part. The image stayed waiting like it knew I was weak. My chest felt tight and restless, wanting someone to witness the chaos. Instead I hit the back arrow and saved it to drafts. Not gonna lie, that small move annoyed me. It felt like letting myself down and growing up at the same time. I tossed the phone at the other end of the couch. It bounced once and lit up again, needy as ever. Mia's name flashed across the screen with an incoming call. I grabbed it before it slid into voicemail, heart still pounding. How bad was it? Came through the moment I answered. She did not bother pretending, she meant the actual party. I did not burn anything down, I replied, voice rough. But Marcus walked me out early and that was not ideal. I picked at a loose thread on my sleeve and stared ahead. My brain replayed his not ready. Me on an endless loop. You posted something messy, didn't you? She asked after a beat. I let out a short, humorless breath through my nose. Draft only, I said, surprised to hear a bit of pride. It almost made it to my page though, I will admit. That is new, she pointed out, a hint of relief creeping in. You usually hit share and think later. Her words stung because they were accurate, not because they were mean. What stopped you? She asked, softer now. Marcus, I answered, leaning back until my shoulder hit the cushion. He asked me not to turn everything into content, especially him. Tonight felt like exactly the kind of thing I would twist online. I swallowed hard and stared at the muted chat with his name. And the other one? She asked, tone dropping lower. I knew which one she meant without her saying it. He wrote after I got home, I admitted, throat tightening again. I muted the conversation before reading it, that is all. She went silent long enough that I checked the call. You are slowly unplugging yourself from that whole stage, she said. Messy progress is still progress, even if it looks pathetic inside. I closed my eyes and let the words sink without arguing. Then why do I feel like I lost everything tonight? I asked. Marcus is distant, my ex still lives rent-free, and I am alone. The word alone tasted bitter, even though I had used it before. This was supposed to feel empowering, not like withdrawal. Because you are detoxing, she replied, no hesitation. You have been high on reactions for months and now you quit cold. Of course your body is screaming for another hit. Her bluntness made my eyes burn, which I hated and needed. What if this is just who I am? I muttered, rubbing my forehead. Somebody who only knows how to live in front of others. The thought scared me more than any breakup ever had. Living like that forever sounded exhausting. It is who you have been, she countered, steady and clear. That is not the same as who you have to stay. Take a break at least for a bit, see what exists off screen. The idea felt huge and ridiculous at the same time. Like a full cleanse, I asked, voice skeptical. Delete everything, disappear, write a dramatic farewell paragraph. I could already see that caption and it made me cringe. She laughed, one short burst that cut through my theatrics. Or you quietly move the apps off your first page, she suggested. Turn off alerts, stop checking who watched every 20 minutes. No announcement, no grand exit, just boring silence for a while. The phrase boring silence made my stomach twist and relax together. After we hung up, I stared at my home screen. Every icon felt louder than it should have, especially those two. I pressed one until it shook, then dragged it to a second screen. Did the same with the other, hands trembling slightly. Then I went into settings and shut off notifications completely. No little banners, no buzzes, no glowing circles announcing attention. When I finished, the quiet felt physical, like someone turned off a speaker. I set the phone face down and waited for my nerves to calm. They did not. Not right away, at least, and I want to be honest about that. I kept imagining activity happening without me seeing it. Him typing, him posting, him watching, me blind to all of it. I grabbed an old notebook from under the coffee table. First page I saw still had wedding planning lists, which hurt. I ripped that page out without reading the details. Then I started writing like my hand was chasing my brain. I wrote every ugly thing I wanted to post that night. All the sarcastic lines, all the petty jabs, every planned subtweet. I filled 3 pages with raw, unedited spite and hurt. When I finished, my hand ached and my chest felt lighter. It was not some magic transformation, I still wanted my phone. But the urge to blast everything in public had dropped a level. Instead of shaking on the edge of action, I felt wrung out. Tired, embarrassed, strangely proud that only paper had seen that side. The next morning my hand reached for my phone before my eyes opened. Muscle memory is no joke, especially with this stuff. I unlocked the screen and saw nothing new, pure digital quiet. That absence felt wrong, then slowly kind of peaceful. I opened messages and found Marcus's name halfway down the list. Our last chat ended with him dropping me off, no drama. Just a simple text me when you get inside. I had replied home and then nothing else. I drafted 3 different messages to him while coffee brewed. Thank you for not letting me humiliate myself online. Sorry you got stuck between me and my past. Do you hate me now or only half? I deleted each one before sending because they felt like pressure. Instead, I typed something shorter that still carried weight. You were right about me not being ready, I wrote. Taking some time off the apps, including the ones you hate. His response took longer than I wanted, shorter than I feared. I do not hate you came through first. Another bubble appeared, disappeared, then returned. I am glad you are trying something different, even if it hurts. I stared at that, feeling a slow, dull ache instead of panic. Thank you for saying that, I answered. I still want you in my life when it feels healthy for you. Hitting send on that last line scared me more than posting any selfie. He did not reply right away, and that was okay for once. I went to work, did actual tasks, talked to people in person. Every lull, my hand still twitched toward my pocket like a habit. Every time I caught myself, I took a breath and let it pass. 2 days into my self-imposed break, the worst happened. Someone at the office walked over holding their phone out. Did you see this yet? She asked, face full of gossip. It is your ex, he uploaded some big anniversary thing. My stomach lurched even though I had expected something like that. I looked at the screen and saw him with his girlfriend. They stood in front of some restaurant, holding hands, smiling wide. Caption below mentioned a year together and feeling grateful for second chances. My eyes stung, not going to lie. Even with the sound off, my brain filled in their laughter. He had used that phrase on me once, ages ago, different context. Seeing it recycled there made me feel oddly replaced and weirdly free. Want me to smack the phone out of my own hand? She asked. I let out a short, rough laugh and shook my head. It is fine, I said, surprising myself with how even I sounded. I have seen enough highlight reels to last a lifetime. I walked back to my desk before she could dig deeper. The old me would have run straight to my own page. I would have countered with some glamorous update, real or staged. Instead, I opened a blank email and focused on something boring. That afternoon, a different notification blinked on my computer. A calendar reminder for a group dinner the following weekend. Same crew as the party, birthday this time, restaurant downtown. His name was on the list again, of course. I hovered over the decline button for a long, shaky minute. Part of me wanted to avoid the whole scene completely. Another part wanted to walk in steady and unperformed. See if I could exist near him without broadcasting every breath. I hit accept before I could overthink it and closed the window. Then I texted Mia 3 words. You are coming, right? Her reply landed fast. Obviously, I am not leaving you alone with that circus. The week leading up to the dinner felt strangely quiet. I still used my phone for boring things, but no scrolling. I did not reinstall anything, did not peek through browser tricks. Every time my fingers itched, I opened the notebook instead. I filled more pages with things I used to push online. Short punchy lines that would have made decent captions. Screenshots I did not take, reactions I only described in ink. Slowly, the habit of turning feelings into performance started to thin. The night of the dinner, I got ready without photos. No practice angles, no mirror clips, no preview for strangers. I checked my reflection once to make sure I looked put together. Then I dropped my phone into my bag and left it there. Mia picked me up and studied my face while we drove. You seem weirdly calm, she noted, eyes flicking over. That terrifies me more than if you were panicking. I snorted and adjusted my seatbelt, heart beating faster anyway. I feel like I already fell apart, I answered. There is nothing left to explode, just leftover nerves. Also, my apps are in exile and I am stubborn as hell. She grinned at that, approving the petty part of my healing. We walked into the restaurant and the noise hit us first. Long table, familiar faces, the usual chaos of overlapping greetings. I spotted him near the far end, his partner beside him. My chest clenched, but my feet kept moving, one step after another. Our eyes met for a second across the table. He gave a small nod, nothing grand, no raised brows. I nodded back once, then turned to hug someone near me. That tiny, neutral exchange felt bigger than all our old fireworks. Mia slid into the chair next to mine and nudged my arm. Still breathing, she whispered, head tilted. Barely, but yes, I answered, taking a sip of water. Phone is off limits, so you are my live coping mechanism. I saw him glance down the table a few times during appetizers. Not in an obvious way, just quick checks that caught my eye. His girlfriend talked animatedly with the person across from her. He laughed when appropriate, but his gaze kept drifting. At one point, someone suggested a group photo. Chairs scraped, people jostled, phones appeared like a swarm. I stayed seated, not rushing to the front as usual. For once, I did not want to engineer my position. On in the frame. Come on, get in here, someone called from the middle. Mia looked at me, eyebrows raised in a silent question. I will sit this one out, I said, lifting my glass. My face has enough history with this crowd already. There were a few oohs at that, some playful teasing. I smiled and let them tug each other into place instead. Flashes went off, voices overlapped, memories captured for later. I stayed on the edge and realized I liked that angle tonight. When the table settled again, my ex leaned back in his chair. He looked in my direction and spoke just loud enough to reach. Less camera time these days, huh? The way he said it held curiosity more than attack. Experiment, I replied, resting my forearms on the table. Trying to see who I am when nobody is rating it. The comment earned a couple raised brows from people listening nearby. I did not care, which felt new and strong. He studied me for a moment, then nodded once. Looks good on you, he said, then turned back to his plate. No smirk, no digs, just that simple line. It landed in a place I had not known was still braced. Later on the way to the bathroom, we crossed paths again. We ended up face to face near the hallway, no escape. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he broke the silence with something I did not expect. "I read your last message," he said, hands in his pockets. "The one I did not answer the other night." I frowned, trying to remember, then realized he meant the muted chat. My heart picked up speed but stayed contained. "You did not need to respond," I told him. "It was more for me than for you." He huffed a quick breath that might have been a laugh. "That much was clear," he agreed. "I am sorry," he added, words coming slower now. "Not just for the obvious thing everyone knows about. For pushing your buttons afterward like I still own them." Hearing that in person hit differently than any typed apology. I leaned against the wall to steady my legs. "I am sorry too," I said, the words surprising us both. "For turning half my life into an ongoing subtweet of ours. For dragging other people into a fight only we understood." We stood there with that for a moment, letting it settle. "No more commentary on your romantic choices," he offered. "No more silent lurking either, at least I will try." His mouth twitched, acknowledging the difficulty. "I will probably still post stupid things sometimes," I admitted. "Just not as weapons, I am working on that." He nodded like he believed me, and maybe even hoped I meant it. "From what I can tell tonight, you already started," he replied. We went back to the table separately, which felt right. I sat down and let the conversation fold around me again. Mia squeezed my hand under the table in a quiet question. I squeezed back a simple answer that said later and better at once. After dinner, people lingered outside saying their goodbyes. Group plans for afters bounced around, bar names, ride shares, more noise. Mia looked to me for direction, ready to follow whatever I chose. I realized I did not actually want more crowd tonight. "I am heading home," I said, sliding my bag onto my shoulder. "Rain check on any extra chaos, my brain is full." She looped her arm through mine and steered us toward her car. "No arguments from me," she said, relieved. In the passenger seat, I finally pulled out my phone. The social icons sat quietly on the second page, untouched. Instinct told me to open them and see the new tags. Curiosity about that group picture poked at me like a finger. Instead, I opened messages and tapped Marcus's name. My last text to him still sat there about my break. No new replies, just that short acknowledgement from days before. My thumbs hovered while I considered what to send. I typed slowly, choosing each word like it mattered. "Had a group dinner tonight," I wrote. No posts, no stories, no public drama, just real people at a table. Felt strange and good at the same time, thought you should know. I stared at the message for a moment, debating. This was not a plea, not a performance, just information. For once I did not care how screenshootable it looked. I hit send and locked the phone without waiting for a response. At home, I dropped my bag on the chair and exhaled. The room felt normal, quiet, almost plain in a way that soothed me. I washed my face, changed, moved through each action without documenting. No part of me reached for a camera, which shocked me a little. When I finally checked my phone again, there were 2 messages. One from Marcus, one from an unknown number that turned out to be a coworker. I opened his first, hand steady, heart loud but not wild. "Proud of you," it read. "That sounds small, but it is big." Underneath, another line appeared. "Let me know when hanging out does not feel like a stage anymore. I will be around, no rush." His patience hurt and healed at the same time. I lay back on the couch and stared at the ceiling. My ex still posted. I had seen proof earlier. He still had someone on his arm, cheering in his little corner. But for once, my life did not feel like a response. I turned my phone over and set its screen down on the table. Not forever, not dramatic, just for the rest of the night. My hands were empty, and my head buzzed with leftover tension. Under all that, there was finally a thin, steady line of quiet.